Welcome to Criminologist. Today, we're taking you back to July 2nd, 1966, to the pristine sands of Indiana Dunes State Park, where three young women mysteriously vanished in broad daylight. Three women disappeared in broad daylight while relaxing on the beach at Indiana Dunes State Park in Porter County, Indiana, on July 2nd, 1966. What was supposed to be a celebration of America's independence and freedom turned to a massive manhunt. It was 4th of July weekend, but these three young women encountered something mysterious that put an end to the light-hearted celebration. And instead of fireworks, they saw only misfortune. This beautiful state park from where they went missing is bordered by Lake Michigan and was a popular swimming and lounging destination for locals and tourists alike, due to its pristine beaches and magnificent dunes, forests, marshes, and swamps. But the location would soon take on a much more sinister atmosphere. Renee Bruhl, maiden name is Sluneko, 19, was 5 feet 9 inches with brown hair and hazel eyes. She was last seen wearing a ruffled yellow bathing suit. Ann Miller, 21, was 5 feet 2 inches with brown hair and blue eyes. She was last seen wearing a two-piece blue bathing suit with a red belt. Patricia Blough, 19, was 5 feet 4 inches with brown hair and brown eyes, last seen in her bathing suit, which was brown with green flowers and golden leaves. The three close friends made the 60-mile drive together from their respective homes in the Chicago area and arrived at around 10 a.m. and parked their car, a Buick owned by Ann Miller, in the lot, about 100 years from where they would set up their towels. While it was the start of a busy weekend, with the Park Service estimating 9,000 people in attendance that day, they didn't go completely unnoticed. A couple noticed them at noon that same day leave their things, including a transistor radio and a jar of tanning lotion on their beach blanket, and enter the waters of the lake. Soon after entering the lake, the couple witnessed the three ladies speaking with a man who was on a 14 to 16-foot boat. Soon after they began speaking to him, they boarded his boat, which has an outboard motor and blue interior, and headed reportedly west. The couple thought nothing of this series of actions until around dusk that day, when they noticed all the girls' belongings still lying on the beach where they had been left many hours before. This drew the couple's suspicions, as it seemed the girls had abandoned their valuables, which park rangers would later learn included cash and car keys, and left them vulnerable to theft. The couple was so stricken by this strange behavior of the girls having left their belongings on the beach as night fell that they alerted a park ranger. The park ranger collected the girls' things, including their cigarettes, car keys, and wallets with money still in them, and stowed them safely away at the park superintendent's office, where they sat until the investigation into the girls' disappearances officially began. It was Renee's father who first raised the alarm of the missing women when by July 4th, 2 days later, he hadn't heard from them. Renee has specifically planned on being back before the evening of July 2nd, as she stated that she intended to cook dinner for her husband. After families of the three women filed missing persons reports, park rangers went searching for the car that they arrived in and found it still sitting in the same parking lot. Once an official search started on July 5th, more witnesses came forward having recalled seeing the girls boarding a boat. One beachgoer offered his camera footage from that day, and based on those reels, police were able to pinpoint two boats they believed could be involved. One was a 16 to 18-foot boat captained by a single man, fitting the witness description of the man the women were seen speaking with, tan with dark hair. The other was a larger boat, 26 to 28 feet, being operated by three men. Both boats shown in the camera's footage had three female passengers on them, matching the features of the ladies, so both were considered possibilities. In fact, authorities believe that both images, taken almost 3 hours apart, could be of them women. As some witnesses say, the smaller boat dropped the girls on shore, where they may have been seen eating and walking in the sand, before being approached by a separate, unknown male. After talking to this separate man, all four were picked up by the other larger boat, a cabin cruiser, this time with two other men on it. Many believed it was strange that Renee's husband of 15 months didn't call in a report sooner. Rumors circulated after a note was found in her purse from that day, addressed to her husband. The note complained that the husband had his priorities misaligned and that he spent too much time fixing hot rod cars with friends and not enough time on their marriage. Friends and family of the couple, though, say that there were no major marriage problems and that Renee probably wrote that note when she was feeling angry in order to vent. And the fact that it was still in her purse confirms that she never gave it to her husband. Renee was the only married woman of the group, but not the only one with personal problems. Ann Miller had told friends a few days prior that she was 3 months pregnant. She discussed her plans to enter a house for unwed mothers. She had been having an affair with a married man and therefore could not be with him. It is also rumored that Patricia was pregnant, also by a married man. Based on these pregnancy rumors, there is a theory that the women were actually scheduled to have illegal abortions that day. One fact that substantiates this rumor is the sighting of Ralph Largo Jr., whose physical traits matched the description of the man on the boat. He confirmed he was at the beach that day. Largo's aunt, with whom he lived, was in the business of performing illegal abortions for women in need. Did the woman board the boat in order to get the procedure done secretly, as it was illegal at that time in that state? Some wonder if the procedure went awry and caused the death of the girls, which needed to be covered up. But then, what happened to Renee? Was she pregnant too? That would be a huge coincidence. Or did she witness the deaths and need to be quieted as well? Ralph Largo Jr. died in 2009, so he can provide no answers. Another theory is that the boat they were on encountered trouble and crashed. Some debris from an apparent boating accident were found near Bailey Generating Station of Northern Indiana Public Service Company on Lake Michigan a few days after July 2nd. However, the families of the 3 girls say that accidental drowning was not likely, though, as all 3 girls were experienced swimmers. In fact, Patricia was known to be able to swim 20 miles in a day, with Ann having similar skills. There's another angle to this case, the so-called horse syndicate connection. This theory involves the 3 ladies' common love, riding and caring for horses. All 3 frequented the Tricolor stables in Palatine, Illinois, and knew George Jayne, who was a well-known and wealthy horse dealer. George Jayne had a bitter feud over horse finances with his brother Silas Jayne, a notorious leader of the so-called horse syndicate, an underground club of some sort that dealt with the buying, selling, and betting of racehorses. The brothers' frequent and intense fighting had actually resulted in the death of a young woman months prior. Cheryl Ann Rood, a successful equestrian, was asked by George to move his Cadillac for him, but in carrying out this task for him, she got into a car that was rigged with the explosives. The car bomb was triggered by the engine starting, and Cheryl was killed instantly. The bomb was thought to be placed by an associate of Silas's and meant for George as retaliation for some horse-related feud they had been having. Court documents show that the prosecution believed that an arsonist was paid $10,000 to place the bomb that killed Cheryl, and the arsonist was subsequently sentenced to life in prison almost 30 years after the actual crime. George was so fearful of a subsequent car bomb attack that he rigged a tool that could turn on a car's ignition without physically getting in the vehicle. It is theorized that the 3 missing women may have witnessed the planting of this bomb and that their deaths were related to the incident. The girls also rode at Silas's stable, even though they boarded their horses at George's stable. 4 months prior, when Renee came home with a facial injury, she cryptically blamed the laceration on issues with, quote, the syndicate people. Additionally, the phone numbers of both George and Silas Jayne were found among the girls' abandoned possessions. Eliminating witnesses would not be out of character for Silas Jayne, who was known to be cold-blooded, cunning, and brutal. The owner of a rival house training business, Idle Hour Stable. He had a reputation for taking advantage of the young women of rich Chicago parents who desired to learn to ride and had no shame in mixing his criminal activities with his stable. Silas is connected to numerous felonies, including the rape of a young woman while he was a teenager, conspiracy to kill his brother George, covering up his employee's murder of 3 young boys known as the Peterson-Schuessler murders, and a shootout with police that resulted in the death of an officer. Silas is also connected to death of an older woman, Helen Brack, who spent over $250,000 on horses and may have gotten caught up with Silas's horse gang, known sometimes as the Horse Syndicate, and at other times the Jayne Gang. Silas was said to be a psychopath with early childhood proclivities for murder. At the young age of 8, he was bitten by a goose on his family farm and was so enraged that he killed each and every goose on the property. At least 11 horse deaths are also connected to him, and he seemed to take his anger at his brother out on his brother's prized horses, including burning 10 of them alive in George's barn and injected 1 prize-winning mare with turpentine. Given the long list of deaths that followed his career, it is not hard to imagine him being involved with the missing women. George, his brother, was shot to death while at his son's birthday party. There is also information that Silas, prior to his leukemia-related death in 1987, told a sheriff that he had 3 bodies buried under his stable, but the sheriff mysteriously died in a farming accident before an investigation was opened and no one ever followed up. Silas also had a boat that matched descriptions of the one the girls were seen boarding, but despite Silas's gruesome past, there are only tenuous leads that connect him and the 3 ladies. No concrete clues have surfaced, mostly in part because there were no bodies, and as they say, no body, no crime. To this day, the women are considered endangered missing, and their families still hold out hope that new clues will surface. The case remains open, but is inactive. If you have any information about this case, please contact the Indiana State Police at 219-269-4747. What do you think happened to Renee, Anne, and Patricia? Were they victims of a terrible accident, a criminal cover-up, or something more sinister? Share your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the world's most baffling mysteries. Stay curious, stay critical, and we'll see you next time on Criminologist. Until then, remember, every story deserves to be told.